This is RevTech Podcast, where we discuss everything from business processes to measurement and technical alignment. The RevTech mission focuses on effectively managing and optimizing the go-to-market strategy through methodologies, tools, and best practices. We discuss the success criteria and technical fit guides for decision-making and ensure solutions align with the business goals. In this episode, our guest is Silas Kalatbari, go-to-market lead and founding team member, and Jessica Pelly, CEO and co-founder of Loyee.ai. Great to have you on, guys.
Thanks for having us on. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, welcome. I'm super excited to be chatting with you today and learn more about your product because I think I'm going through very similar challenges in my current job. So yeah, let's start with just the elevator pitch of what Loyee does. Am I pronouncing it right?
Loyee.
Yeah, it comes from loyal customers and loyal employees. So it's a little wordplay here.
Oh, I like that.
Go.
Okay. So yeah, let's just start at a high level. What does the product do?
Yeah, high level, what we try to do at Loyee is help companies with their outbound really be a lot more targeted and a lot more relevant at scale. So then, where we really come from, you go back a decade, you get 1,000 leads, spray and pray, put them in a sequence. It used to work really well. Now that's not the case. Now sales teams need to be super relevant, very targeted. But you get your individual sales rep, you have 1,000 leads. It's going to take you weeks to do the research, build the business cases. Our software automates that process and lets you know who you should go after, why they're a good fit, and where they have a need. So you can just focus on reaching out.
Cool. And is it just on outbound or are you doing anything? I'm sure we'll dig into this more on the inbound side too, in terms of like lead scoring and understanding who's a good fit.
So we focus on inbound as well. It's really scoring and kind of digging deeper into every lead. That being said, I think most of the customers we work with will have a heavy outbound arm or kind of a hybrid approach.
Okay. I can't wait to dig into outbound and inbound and your thoughts on all of it as we go through this. And so what's the story of the company? How did it get started?
Yeah, we started as a nudge board for sales reps. So nudging them into the best next action when it came to like lead qualification and lead prioritization. And people liked it. But when we talked to, the sales teams, the managers, the CROs, it was not about like nudging the people into the right direction, but really the pain point was lying in, we should not be nudging them, we should solve the problem for them. So instead of like telling them, hey, build more pipeline, build more healthy pipeline, do more outreach, like why just not do it for them? And there was like the huge pull from the market to be like super targeted, spray and pray will not work. We have just like so much LinkedIn connection requests, just so many emails we want to send out. So we really have to find the companies that bring us like the highest ROI. And we have to reshuffle that quickly if our business needs, our product roadmap changes. And yeah, we started to work with companies that, wanted to test different markets, going more upmarket, going more enterprise, but did not have like the expertise to, do that quickly. So this is how this tool then kind of developed.
That's super interesting. I feel like sometimes I need to nudge my sales team members, but it makes sense. I think often when you chat with them, it's not that they don't want to do things. It's that it's hard to do all of the things that they need to get done in the day between making sure their CRM pipeline and data is up to date, to understanding who to reach out to trying to understand the customer's pain point. So if you're helping them along that way in that process, that's going to be more helpful than just being like, hey, make sure you're doing this from kind of a micromanaging perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more positive if you provide the how to do this and a little bit more information and context than just chasing someone, right? Like it's a little bit less negative, I would say.
Like how it all started is I was working with the Nobel laureate who won the Nobel Prize for the concept for nudging. And that was like a great way of getting the foot into the door into the companies because it was like super lean to onboard the teams. It's just a Slack board. We hook to the CRM. We see exactly what leads to prioritize at which point in time. But when we realized, okay, there must be like a deeper level to this. During my PhD, I was working on matching buyers and sellers based on textual data. And that was like perfect, because in order to qualify and give them the perfect leads and the best companies to go after, we have to work with a lot of textual data from websites, from job descriptions, news articles, financial reports. Yeah, and this is exactly what we are now applying into our platform that we will show you in a minute.
That's a fun way to found a company. Often I feel like people are at a company, they have a problem and they're like, I'm going to go solve a problem or build a product that solves this problem for me. But you coming from a place of actually studying this is somewhat unique. I know it does happen. And I'm excited to see like how that translates into the actual product. And Cyrus, why did you end up joining?
Couple reasons. The past few years, I was always based along startups. And I always went earlier every stage. So I started at a Series C startup. I started at a Series A. Really wanted that experience of, get in early, build something. I met Jesse and the team and we just clicked. But I think really similar to what you said, Lizzie, most founders who feel a pain in their own job and they want to go and solve that problem. I was the ideal user for Loyee. I was in sales. I was a senior AE. I was running partnerships. I was building my own pipeline. And I was like, why does something like this not exist? This is something I feel every day. So the opportunity came and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go join the other side and try to solve it.
That's awesome.
I think he did so well on this question. It must have been the interview question, that Jessica asking.
God, he's still with us, so I hope not.
That's awesome. And so, yeah, we'd love to hear about where you're at in terms of your fundraising journey and what the plans are for the future there.
Yeah, in terms of fundraising, we are early stage, right? So what does it mean? We are definitely pre-product market fit. We have some customers and us experimenting ourselves using our own product to be frankly fair. And yeah, I mean, we are pre-seed to put like a label on it. And, as a founder, you're always looking or are open and hunting for smart capital. So we have really great backers, I would say, and yeah, good things are happening for Loyee, so stay tuned. Hopefully we have soon even better announcements, but yeah, we are using that money to invest into, a healthy mix between like builders and sellers, so that's where we want to kind of put our resources in to make the product even better.
Cool. That's very exciting. I'll have my eyes peeled for what comes in the next few months on the fundraising side of things. So I'm dying to see the product.
Yes, I think we want to move to a demo. So yeah, what are you going to show us today?
Essentially, like I said, our product really helps sales teams be a lot more targeted. So you can give us different signals you're looking for. These triggers would let you know, what lead is perfect for me. Why are they good? And a lot of our customers are traditionally B2B SaaS, different industries, from whether they're in usage-based billing and they're looking for companies with different pricing styles, whether they're in compliance, like they're marketing tools, looking for companies that have very specific aspects. So bringing those different industries together, we put some of it all together to show you how a variation of teams could benefit from the tool.
All right, let's dive in.
So how everything starts with Loyee is, first thing we do is you need to give us your leads. Now, what most teams do is they'll go to a tool like Lucia, Apollo, SalesNav, ZoomInfo. They'll get a huge list of leads, 1,000 leads. Here's our market we can go after. And now they want to break that down. So how we collect those leads, a couple different ways. Say you go to Apollo and you get a CSV, you can give us the CSV. For a lot of our customers, they live in their CRM. We'll integrate with your CRM, pull a list directly. But in the easiest format, you can just give us the URLs of the website. So let's say, for example, here I have 30 leads. I'm going to try to sell to these today. I want to know who I go after. So you collect these leads. Now it comes into putting in the different signals. And the way to think about this, is imagine, Lizzie, Demetrius, you're using this tool for your company. You just hired me as an SDR and I know nothing. I'm coming up to you. I'm like, what am I looking for to let me know who's a good target I should go after? Whether that's something around the pricing they have, the different product models, the tech stack they use. We have a library of some of the things that our customers use, but the beauty is you can really get fully customized with it. So let's say some signals, for example, I want to look at right now. I want to know, I might be a part of an accounting software. I might help with usage-based billing. I want to know companies that are actively hiring for roles that are hiring for that exact process. So I'll make that hiring, which is where we fetch from job descriptions. And I put my different questions in is I want to know which one of these companies are hiring for roles related to product monetization. You can add a bit of customization here too, where I want it to be a recent worry for them. You know what? I only want it if they've been trying to hire for this since January, or I only want the open roles only. And you can put any sort of questions, it can be a lot more vague on just breaking down normally, hey, is this company B2B? Or it can be a lot more specific as well, where we're looking at this company, thinking about their marketing. Are they now using direct mail as one of their main strategies? The idea is to get as granular as you really want to do. So you fill out all these different types of signals. In the final step, you can also assign different weightings. Based on whether it's a certain project you're running, a certain signal cadence, some might be more important. So now, hey, if they're hiring for this, that's fantastic for me. If they're B2B, that's good. I might be able to sell B2C. So let's not focus there. And you press next step and you just give this a name. And so what's happening now is in real time, we're going to the web. So all these accounts you fetch for us, we're going to their websites, we're going towards their job descriptions, their career pages, analyzing all that information and giving it back. So what it looks like when it's done is going to be a little bit something like this. So as a sales rep, I'm going to log in. I'm going to see, first of all, I have all my leads prioritized. I know Stuart's 90, they're fantastic. I have some leads that are better, not amazing yet. I have some leads that don't really fit what I'm looking for. Either the timing's not right, maybe I'll put them in a cadence, maybe I'll watch out for them later. But then the main question, and the benefit for sales teams is, yeah, it helps knowing who's a good lead. It helps a lot knowing exactly why they're a good lead. That's why when you click into here, you get a brief description on all of it as well. So for example, I want to know if they're hiring for roles related to accounting or monetization. Well, yeah, actually, they're hiring for a revenue accounting processor right now, and their responsibilities are revenue accounting, accounts receivable. Big concern people have with tools like ours as well is you give us the wrong information. I reach out to them. They say, you don't know what you're talking about. I burned my lead. So we also provide the sources as well. So as a sales rep, you can click in, validate that information, go a lot deeper. But then the idea here really being, I'm not going to message Lizzie and say, hey, Lizzie, revenue leaders hate when they can't deal with their usage-based billing, so we should talk and be super generalized. I can message and say, hey, Lizzie, I know you're hiring for an accounting processor right now, and I know on his day-to-day he's going to do this, this, and this. Well, we should talk because we make that aspect easier and we completely do those two sides. Might be interesting to have a chat. Same for a couple of the different use cases where hiring for roles doing regulatory, whether they're dealing with vulnerable customer data, whether using direct mail as a strategy, you can say exactly the reasons they are, the roles that are dealing with it, to be a lot more personalized at scale. That being said, we also make it easier for sales teams to filter down. So some things we collect on either side is, their growth over time. A lot of time you might be looking for a growing company. You want to look at the tech stack they're using, where on the high level, hey, I want to know who's using AWS. Versus if you want to get a lot more granular, everyone uses Salesforce. I'm a marketing team. I want to know who are using it specifically for marketing. So now let's go in here. Let's search for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And then choose that, and I see, oh, well, here are the 6 leads that are actively using Salesforce Marketing Cloud as well. We have obviously a bit more information. For example, going down, close this up. We can always track, when their last fundraise was, who they raised from, how much did they raise, this information that might be relevant. But that's really where the first phase of our product was built on. Who do I go after? Why do I go after them? That information. Now, going to the next phase a little bit as well, what we noticed is this helps a lot of companies. They're either building outbound for the first time, they want to move up market or down market, they're breaking into new verticals, launching new products. They still don't know every single signal that's going to let them know what a perfect lead is or not. And I think traditionally the way you did that, you'd have a quarter end review, you'd go to HubSpot or Salesforce, build a dashboard, and you kind of use a bit of gut as well, figuring out what we did well here. Let's try to focus on that more. Now we've built our own proprietary models as well that directly connect to a company's CRM. And what they're doing is at any given time, they're analyzing your deal flow. What's being qualified? What's not being qualified? What's winning? What's losing? And so versus having to do that look back approach at any given time, you can be data driven. So right now I can know, well, if I put the last 2 weeks, if they're selling to enterprise, if they are buying tools from tech companies, that's a lot of my close won deals. What my competitors are doing. My high level ICP, break it down. Industry, region, size, the sources my leads are coming from. What's really working well? Towards even the more granular, when you look at different type of signals we're using, are they using AWS? Are they using OpenAI? Do they have tech savvy founders? Those signals you're testing as well in those queries, we're tracking what's really working or not. So you can be a lot more targeted at any given moment and say, hey, we thought these 3 signals are great. We're losing 80% of those deals. We didn't think about them using OpenAI being a great signal. 70% of those deals are being qualified. We're winning 40% of them. Let's double down and focus there. That's kind of a little glimpse into the platform.
This is incredible. I'm going through the process of redefining our agency ICP right now. And I'm like, well, I think we have some idea of what works, but we don't have access to so many of those signals, right? And it's hard to acquire those signals. And so I have a question around, obviously you're scouring the web, you can scrape data there, but are you integrated with other intent data sources or other tools that help provide some more granular insights that maybe aren't public information?
Right now, we focus mainly on the public information. What we are building up is kind of our own database, like who's querying what and why, and eventually we will matchmake. We work with customers where we tap into their data from G2 and intent data, like who's on the website, but we are not providing that by ourselves. We use that information.
Yeah, that's via an integration with the data that they have. Very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that could work pretty well. I mean, companies, they want to have a variety of different tools used internally, or they're paying for these things already as well. And this is a good opportunity to test something that can actually bring all these data together. And also, I think it helps them to verify what works better. Sometimes maybe the publicly available information might be better than somebody who is just having a complicated algorithm and is asking you to pay for that. What I really like about the tool is that you actually thought very well about the analytics. So a lot of tools are focusing on the productivity, what I'm calling productivity, sales productivity AI, when there's a kind of autofilling, something that automates that part of the work. But I think what you did is realize that telling these people what really works, what doesn't work is the key. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you 100% hit that right. I think it's really what moves the needle. And you think about it, everyone likes to complain in sales teams about my CRM's dirty, all that. I think we all have these problems where a lot of tools try to automate that. Everyone's real problem is you want more deals closed and you want more pipeline. If you go to any sales rep and you're like, hey, yeah, you're going to be forced to fill out stuff still, but you're going to be closing deals 80% more. You're going to make a lot more commission. You're going to go faster. I guarantee 90% are going to be like, I'll fill that out. That's not a problem.
People think, okay, I need more data. Well, more data, that's cool. What are you going to do about this? And how are you going to use it? I mean, that's a bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
That you're creating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're solving for that, which is cool. And I think, I don't know how many conversations I had, what my ICP should be. However, we know that these results are empirical, right? Like these are the things that not necessarily assess how much more you can do.
Yeah.
That's still the work that needs to be done on top of that. But I think it's a strong indication which direction you should go, right? And I think this is a great improvement. So how do you see this thing to play out on the other analytical elements of the work? Is there anything that you're planning to do in that space? Or we're going to talk about the product more, but I'm just curious where this demo could go beyond what you showed us.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. I think a big part of the analytics side is obviously to help the sales teams, that they'll let them know what's working. We plan to dive deeper into that as well, specific research projects, different lists, tracking how those are going. But talking a bit about what can people expect, where is the product going to? I think versus just doubling down on the analytics, the reason people want to know what's working as well is because they want to use that to go find more pipeline and find.
Yes.
I think eventually what we want to grow into is versus just this sales enablement and make it easier to know who to sell to of your existing lists. The beauty of these algorithms and connecting is we get this deep understanding from companies. What is the most granular buyer profile that works for you? We envision a world where eventually we can take that, we can go online, we can match them to the buyers and actually generate those net new leads for them as well. So rather than saying, Dimitris, Lizzie, here's go get companies with these qualities and you'll win. It'll be like, we know that. We'll get that for you. We'll give them to you. We'll give you the reasons why you're going to win them. Go out and win them.
Sounds good. So thinking about the metrics, because you said analytics, and I think this is critical element of that work. So I see that there is a pipeline generation here involved. I see that there is a conversion involved. Do you see any other analytics or analytical elements that you wanna bring in beyond these two?
Yeah, so what we are tracking as of now is how the insights are progressing. And this touches obviously on the pipeline visibility. So we track pipeline health, like how much percentage of the pipeline that your team is going after and each individual team member is actually a good pipeline. So, given that we then know the qualities of the pipeline, this is like a great way for managers to see, is the territory even distributed fairly, right? Because if I give someone like a pipeline that is full of signals and full of reasons, hey, this is a good fit, then the other person, like, not so much, that's not good. So around pipeline visibility, which constitutes of pipeline health, pipeline engagement, like how often do we engage with really good pipeline, but also pipeline conversion, like how does each insight convert? So that's the key that we are focusing on, from focusing on the insights and signals. But obviously what we are doing in the background is understanding what are my highest ROI leads so they don't waste time on leads that don't convert. And with our matchmaking algorithm, the dream scenario would be to have conversion metrics that converge against 100%. So if we know what the salespeople want and we understand the buyers really well, then, bringing them together as a perfect match, we should not even worry about conversion metrics that much anymore.
I love how you put it. That would be ideal matchmaker.
And it's tough.
Oh yeah, of course.
Have 100 sellers for 5 buyers. So you really have to understand who you recommend to who.
And you also have a recipient that also reacts to all of that. And, it's hard to predict that part too.
The human is hard to predict, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's just we just don't know who we have on the other side and what is their motivation. And that's really hard. But I think and the direction makes sense, because you want to ensure that you see the preferences versus what really is thrown to these individuals, which makes this whole pipeline generation a little bit more personalized process. Whereas till now, I haven't seen anything like this as an idea. A lot of people were trying to keep something that is very unified, unilateral for everybody in the team. And, that's, how we're keeping the team up to the standard. However, we all know that you can have a different responses when you're calling healthcare versus when you're calling SaaS industry, right? The reception to the digital tools is very different. And I'm not trying to diminish anyone's ability, but I think it's just a certain industries working and thinking in a certain way.
Yeah.
So a little bit more personalized approach makes sense. And what you said about quality, it's absolutely critical too, because I will give up on all this volume that I'm getting that looks good on the slides for the quality that moves fast.
Yeah.
If you are a seller, that's all you care, right? That's how you're going to retire your quota. So that's fantastic.
Spend your time in places that matter. Dimitri and I were just talking the other day about like how often we're getting outreach to from go-to-market tools. Like my inbox is filled with very generic messages. And when someone actually takes the time to like understand what I do in my role, understand what my company does, and says something specific to me and how they could help me, I might not be interested, but I'm going to reply to them, right? I'm going to give them the reason why they didn't close the deal. I'm going to maybe even say, but I know someone else that like might be able to benefit from your tool. And it goes a lot further. If it's a generic message, like it's going in the trash. I don't have time for it. So I think that's a really cool part of the tool and how it can actually be utilized. It seems like a lot of teams could potentially utilize the tool. So like I'm thinking the product marketing team, when they're defining who the ICP is, obviously the RevOps team in terms of lead scoring and integrating this into the CRM system, the sales team, but also the enablement team as well, of like, what is the messages that you're saying? How are you doing discovery with this information and whatnot? Are you seeing your customers actually start to utilize it across all those teams? Am I missing any teams that are maybe going to be able to collaborate here?
No, I think you got it exactly right. We sell to a large scale company, so it would be anything from the small startups doing founder-led sales, one person figuring it out, to then, the large organizations. And you hit it completely on the head. Our buying committee is every time you're going to have RevOps involved, marketing will be involved, sales leaders will be involved. I think the day-to-day of the Loyee platform might be in the hand of RevOps and sales teams, but the whole idea behind it is to create that collaboration between, all those leadership aspects of revenue and who should we be targeting, why should we be targeting them. So marketing uses that to really focus their campaigns. RevOps uses that to help add some leadership to the sales team and where they should be going. the reps obviously are utilizing it in their day-to-days for their specific messaging. And enablement is becoming a big part as well, which is really we're seeing growing in a lot of bigger companies.
Yeah, I was thinking about it more in terms of like the larger scale companies whose CRMs are a mess. But from the ICP perspective and like figuring out who is a good customer, and you mentioned up top you're using it yourself, it is super helpful. And that too, if you're a small sales team, it's hard to go out and like do all that research. And so if you can gather that, that's a really, really interesting perspective.
Yeah, especially like if you think about that, there's also not much data when you're a young company, right? So something to not forget, like, and we have the opportunity to kind of communicate with the customer. Okay, who are your dream customers? Who are the top customers you closed in the past? And sometimes they even ask customer success teams, like, like this, we see what closed, but like, which are among the ones that closed, like really like our dream customers. And this is something that companies oftentimes forget to ask.
Yeah, you just made me think of, are you taking, from an analytical perspective, taking in any retention metrics yet, or is that a plan?
Yes, exactly. So we look, obviously with younger companies, you don't have the time series. So, yeah. I mean, we are dealing here with survival data, right? So we don't have the time series, but when we start working with a company, we see kind of the retention data. So we have like one client where we calculated like really on the margin level what companies are good companies and not good companies. So it's not even about just retention, but really like who's the highest ROI customer over time.
Yeah, that's incredible to be able to back that in, right? Because often when we're looking at like who's our ICP, we're like, well, we close a lot of companies in this space, but then 3 months down the line, they're no longer customers and maybe they're not a good fit, even if they're closing at a high rate.
What Sarah showed briefly in the platform is that you can also track like your competitors and what signals they are going after. So given that, companies publicly show who their customers are, we can also like look, okay, you have a company, you are, I don't know, like a small ATS provider and there is Greenhouse in the market. Do you want to go like with the same signals than Greenhouse, or do you rather prefer to avoid the same signals and you can enroll or not? And that's also super helpful for earlier stage startups or companies, that are trying to experiment, because you can learn from others.
Yeah.
This is critical. This is critical for the companies that, like you said, is trying to figure out the new tactics that just get them on the market and it's getting them some customers, some conversations they can learn from and adjust. Absolutely fundamental. I want to say that I think the marketing is benefiting from this as well greatly because they know how to allocate the budget. And as we know, like in the last 2 years, the marketing budgets were just completely slashed. So I think they're pinching every single penny and they want to ensure that if they invest here and there, there's a certain return or at least expectation. And there's still a lot of marketing teams that are avoiding the commitment on how much return they're going to provide on the budget. Right. So that's one thing I want to add. And the second is, even in the current form that Cyrus presented the tool, it still provides a lot of insight into the post-sale team. And I can see how the teams are going after these signals and they leverage the upsell. So that's a very important information that they today don't have. And again, there's a lot of companies that just don't have information structured around the usage of the tool versus where the opportunity is. Because sometimes the usage is just sending in a false signal and adoption where you have a high levels of adoption, but there's nothing left in the tank to buy, right? So you will spend a lot of time knocking on the door where just like there's a wall instead of the doors that actually have a little bit more potential with a lower usage.
I think you make a really great point there. It's something we've noticed a little bit as well. I think, when the tool was being built in the start, the thought was kind of for the use case, right? It's net new leads, it's new pipeline. The conversation we've had recently is exactly what we said, Demetrius. It's, well, hey, let's also connect to our CRM and see the deals we already have. When are they going to fundraise? When I start hiring for new people to exactly give that signal to know where to upsell.
Yeah.
And I think you made a great point around like demand gen, right? If you're running ABM campaigns, take out the ones that are showing really low signal and spend more money on the ones that are showing a high signal as well. Is anyone else doing this? Who do you consider your competitors? Are there any?
It's definitely a busy space. I think sales enablement, top of funnel. I'd say the biggest competitor we have right now would be a company called Clay, which do a lot of similar to what we do. They are a fantastic tool. I use them. I know a lot of people that use them. Super powerful. They're a sick team. I think, comes on the differentiation of what you want to use the tool for. Like Clay is extremely powerful. It even at times gives more information that we do to the more granular detail if you want on the persona, for example. But it takes a bit of time to on-ramp. It's a bit more of a complex tool. It takes a couple of weeks to really become an expert at it. It takes a lot of time to actually work with it. Where if you're a person who wants one strategic tool to really build these cohesive, very complex campaigns, very complex informations, they're perfect. Where we position ourselves more, we're for those busy sales teams where as an individual sales rep, you don't want them fully on-ramping on a new tool. You don't want them spending hours on it. It's just a very quick approach to here's the 5 things I want. Here's my leads. 5 minutes later, I know who to go after.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit more focused on like SMB mid-market as opposed to like an enterprise team, or are you still seeing some enterprise teams use it as well?
We do see some enterprise teams and we've worked with some enterprise clients. What we're seeing a lot of now is companies who focused on SMB and mid-market. We're now trying to move up market into enterprise.
Yeah.
And that's why the financial reports and earnings calls are so important, right? Because that's something that sales reps also don't find super appealing to research, but there is gold in those transcripts, so to speak. Like, hey, I just closed someone. I'm a sales enablement tool at Cold Caller, and I want to go after companies that, are hiring for roles where cold calling is mentioned, but also, have revenue productivity as like their goals for the next quarter. So, give me all the companies that have those two insights signals.
Yeah. It's kind of a perfect time to be going to market because I think everyone that's been going after SMB and mid-market companies is like, how do we move up market? And so now we're talking about an ICP that is different, that is more competitive, that there is less of. And so being really prescriptive with who you're actually going after, because that sales cycle is inevitably going to be longer, is critical.
Yeah, I think I want to add one thing. Enterprise teams are very busy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't distinguish this based on the notion, it's a big team. They don't have problems. They have a lot of problems. First of all, I'm speaking through my own experiences working at the huge company. I remember that problem was prevalent across the teams, right? Like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do first? We have 350,000 customers across the globe. Oh. And if you think about Fortune 500, that might be a little bit easier, but it's not.
Yeah.
There's plenty of teams. There is a problem of segmentation that goes across the corporation. So finding these nuggets with the intent, that is really hard. With the large organization that has a lot of organizations within, so finding the right people that can buy and then go push this through the whole buying committee, that's really hard. That's really hard. So I think it fits big corporation and it fits small corporation. So what's your ideal customer? Like, I'm trying to figure out that now. Where you want to sell and who you want to sell to as a part of your go-to-market strategy.
I think right now at the moment, like I said, while big companies can work as well, our ICP would be more within that more SME mid-market phase. But really what we're looking for is companies that they have, like you said, busy sales teams who is up to them to really prioritize who they're going after. A lot of times it would be better if they are doing higher priority, high velocity sales. So there's a lot of opportunities. Companies with a big market, I think where we've done really well is companies who can serve multiple different velocities. So it's a huge list of, I can target everyone if I want to, and finding the gold within that becomes a big one. And then lastly, it's the companies who are switching up their outbound. It's either companies building for the first time or the companies who are now realizing, I can't rely on sequences. I can't rely on what I was doing. I need to rethink how I'm targeting. I need to rethink my messaging, and I want to get a lot more data driven. I think those qualities together make up our perfect ICP.
It's a good time to be in the market. I think everyone's doing that right now.
Yeah, but to give you like a concrete example of how we use our tool, we have like different industries that we work with. So we look at, okay, who is in the billing space, who's in like remote workspace, So that's like something that we look at. But then who has many integrations? Because if tools build on top of tools, they need to be really granular, right? So if I'm, I don't know, a company that is selling only to customers that use HubSpot and Salesforce, like I don't need to target any other customers. So that's what we put in, for example. And then we also search in the job descriptions, like who's hiring RevOps, SDRs that need to do outbound. So that's also like something that we leverage a lot.
Yeah. And are you seeing you're mostly selling to sales leaders? Are you selling to RevOps leaders? Like who's your champion within an organization?
Usually the VPs of sales, because they want to help the full cycle AEs or like prospecting SDRs to really save time on the research and really give like hunting like the good leads.
Yeah.
And they want to have a little bit more control of who they should go after. Because right now they sometimes even don't know what they're searching for if they have to prospect their own lists. Or we have like other companies that follow like a more ABM approach where marketing tells them which leads to go after, but then they get a huge list and they still don't know and they just work it off like alphabetically or however it's sorted. That's what we are seeing. But sometimes companies have RevOps already, then obviously RevOps needs to be included. They want to recycle leads in the CRM, enrich them. So that's their motivation.
I wonder how it would go if you went after heads of demand gen, because I think sometimes that the pushback they get is these leads aren't high quality enough. And so there's that good, healthy tension between demand gen and the sales teams of I want high quality leads, I want more leads, I want this, and we're giving you those leads and that back and forth. And I'm curious if heads of the demand gen, demand marketing would say like, I'd love this tool. I'd love to know exactly who to go after, how to spend my budget, and how to qualify these at a better rate. I know in some of the demand gen teams I've worked with, like what is considered sales qualified? I'm like, is that really sales qualified? Or would there be more signals that would be better for us to actually pass this over and not waste the sales team's time?
That's a great question. And I think it's definitely something we have been seeing more. So as you know, I think when we sell to bigger companies, you look at the buying committee. Yeah, the CRO or VP is usually a decision maker. RevOps sits on the committee. Marketing is sitting on the committee more and more as well. So I think one thing you really hit on the head is sales and marketing don't get along. It is a constant war that you will always have. And what we're seeing for a lot of marketing leaders we're speaking to, they look at it exactly from that aspect. They want to get rid of mitigation because I think, Dimitris, you mentioned this as well. Marketing budgets have gotten slashed. And a big part of that is because I think it's been this trend where we're giving you millions of dollars. Where is our return? Why is the ROI so low? So I think now they really like the idea of having a tool that can really bring sales and marketing together and kind of combine those signals in a way where marketing focuses on a segment. They know they fit those segments. They know they fit those signals. Sales isn't going to complain. Sales isn't going to be mad. And they are going to get higher ROIs from it because they know those are the leads that their team can actually sell to.
There is this tension between the sales and marketing. I agree. But the fact that they bring in more marketing into this conversation, that means that they have no choice.
Yeah.
Right? And they realized this debilitating, conversation that is not driving output on both sides. It has to just end. And we have to move into something that is a new beginning. And I think a lot of these tools like yours is bringing them together, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. I think the both teams, they just need to have a framework put in place and support us with the tools that can help them to execute on the both sides. Because a silo is gone. Like, forget about this. There's no silos anymore in the company. Building kingdoms with a lot of resources that are going to do a lot of this manual work, forget about this. Nobody will give you money for this anymore, right? Like, it's just gone. So I think these organizations are a little bit more pushed to work together. So your tool fits very well.
Yeah, and the analytics help support that, right? Because like the sales team might be like, oh, I know we're targeting these in an ABM campaign, but they're not converting. And now the marketing team can say, no, yeah, they are. Did you see the data? Like, that's exactly who's converting. And it just ends that like misconception of what's happening because one opportunity didn't go well, which is often the case. I'm in partnership, so my mind is always there. It seems like there are a ton of integration opportunities for this. I've already thought of like 4 as we're talking. How are you thinking about partnerships and who's kind of next for integrations and where you want to head there?
Yeah, I think partnerships as a channel, we're definitely trying to double down on. I used to be in partnerships as well, and I think it's just such a useful channel. I think how we're building it, there's three main types of partnerships we're looking for. One, I think, is more the classic referral partnerships. And with this, it's going to be, we're looking for companies in the sales space, different value propositions, same buyers. We're looking to partner with tools where, for example, one of our partner sales bricks, we're top of funnel, who you should focus on. They're bottom of the funnel, how to make that invoicing easier and kind of create that cohesive customer journey where they can come to you and say, I need help with this. And you say, I don't do this, but let me give you my partner that'll give you that experience. Two would be, like you said, huge potential for integration partners. So we've done a couple already, top of funnel tools where we're importing their data, whether it's collecting more personal level information, contact level data. And then just like you touched on, a lot of the intent data as well. So I think the next big ups there would be the big top of funnel tools, looking at the G2s, the Apollos, the 6 Senses, and trying to target partnerships with them and create that world where we each do what we do separately better, because it's our main focus, but finding a world to bring that together. And then lastly as well, I think what we're starting to do along is predominantly we've been sales-led in our motion. So started very founder-led sales, now going more sales-led. We want to start bringing in marketing-led sales as well. A big part of that is going to be, focus on the next 1 or 2 quarters. Whether it's initial thought leadership, we want to start on blogs, webinars. But we're also looking for co-marketing partners where we can put our thought leadership posts together.
There's a ton of opportunity there because, on partner-led sales, if someone's using Zoom Info or 6 Sense or whoever, and the customer comes back and says, this data is great, but it's really hard to activate across. And that's where you're a great fit to come in and help with that activation layer and make it less messy. I also think there's an element of your product that could be integrations that help with activation. So the back to that demand gen side of helping figure out who you should be targeting in your ABM campaigns, or what should the sequence be? Can you actually help write up what should be in that email and that outreach, which I'm sure will be later on, but I think there's a lot of activation opportunities as well.
Absolutely. And you touched upon a great point. So we do have already formal partnerships, also informal partnerships, literally for one of the intent data, we scraped their Slack. That intent data that they're getting, just because we don't have a formal API partnership. So that partnerships are huge for us. And at the same time, with Outreach or SalesLoft, it's a little bit easy to partner up with them, to leverage them. So how companies are using it now to enroll different segments into different cadences. So if it's I'm hiring RevOps campaign and I'm a RevOps tool, then put them, into a campaign. We don't help write the emails. And the reason is because we are a big fan of people also learning and growing. And if we just do the job for them, one, AI is not there yet. And B, should be very personal. So that's why we decided, hey, give them the information. Let's leverage the information. But eventually maybe the tools improve, then we can tap into that. But right now it's more about learning and growing in a more high quality way.
Well, that's a very good point. I don't know how many emails I'm getting on a daily basis. You can tell they are written by ChatGPT, low quality. And there's one thing that I, in particular, don't like about the email. People that don't know me, they're asking me for 10 minutes conversation about the solution. And I'm like, that's a straight in my face a lie.
Yeah.
That we need 10 minutes. I don't like the fact that somebody's just sending me a 2-sentence note without any material about what they really do. I agree with you. I don't think we should write the emails for these people because they're generic and they're not genuine. What I think the tools could do is assess what they have written and then make suggestions how to change them. So probably the answer is personalization, or I don't know how I would probably categorize this, but it's somewhere on the other way around than assuming somebody will make adjustments on something that is generic. They won't. It's a volume game in a lot of these cases, especially if somebody's unexperienced. So I agree with you. It shouldn't be writing the emails for them.
Yeah, LinkedIn has a new tool that does that after, right? So you like write up your post and then you can say like rewrite with AI and you can choose to keep it or not. And I've been using it a bunch and I love it. Sometimes I'm like, absolutely not. Other times I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good way to reframe it. And because I'm going to write pretty similar things almost every time. And if I can find new ways to write it, it's really helpful.
I agree.
Writing is art. People consider this to be administrative work. So I think anything that can help to get better at writing, that's where the direction I think all these tools should probably take. Writing for them is not helpful.
No, that's true. I like the aspect of, improving. We don't also want to get the creativity out of the process.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. You want to be different. So yeah, the creativity is key. And so that's something that, we can either recommend a message and you change it, but, we know there's also like the status quo bias. So it's a little bit more educative to write the message first and then improve the message, like you said, Lizzie, with using the LinkedIn AI or use Grammarly. I mean, there's so many different tools.
Yes.
And I think that's the right current status of where we stand with like AI tools. Like that's a great way. Like in the future, it will be different. But I think right now it's good to educate people and also to give them like the tools to do their job right.
Yeah. And that's even like a possible, integration opportunity down the road of maybe you don't do that, but you pump the information in that you have and that tool helps to rewrite that. I get excited talking about it because I'm like, oh my God, there's so many integration opportunities and places where you can plug in. Yeah. So I've asked a few questions about like what's next, but what is actually the next thing that you're looking to do? Is it taking this product as a whole more into general availability, or what does that look like on your product roadmap?
Firstly, we want to do what we do well and better every day. So be it with the insights, be it with the analytics, make our models just a lot more accurate, a lot more specific in the types of information they can get. And then next would be more going to that matchmaking and trying to actually generate the leads and really go in the direction of how companies know here are your ideal buyers, but also let the buyers know here's your ideal sellers. Create that perfect combination match where you can take, in an ideal world, that initial hunt and research out of top of the funnel, and you can give the rep all the information they need to then the same amount of time they would put on that, now put it into their writing, into their calls, now put it into creating that creativity, now put it into those aspects where you need a bit more time to double down on.
On the customers that you have so far, what are some of like the biggest operational wins they've had or improvement that they've had across their business? Is it like our close one conversions went up X%, or what does that look like?
One easy win was like, hey, you're saving me as a sales manager already 4 hours. And that was definitely a day. So that was already a win. And obviously the time savings on the rep level. Also, like from an enablement perspective, sometimes sales teams don't do the research. A, they don't know what to go after. B, they don't have the time to find something. So like really giving it to their fingertips and saving them time, that's great. But time savings are nice, but I think what we really see is that the conversion rates go up. So one company that they were selling a software product in like the desk booking space, they went up 13% within the first 3 months. So this is stuff that we are starting to track. Obviously, we hope to improve even more, but that's like the easy wins that we saw like after short usage of our product.
Yeah, if you're saving a director of sales 4 hours a day, that's like $100,000 back in a company's pocket. So the ROI on that is pretty good. And then obviously, if you can also increase conversion rates and the amount of closed deals, that's where a lot of the ROI is. But the time savings is beneficial, especially with the recent more macroeconomic trends around teams getting smaller and operations teams getting minimized and whatnot.
So talking about the improvements on that front and how to help to increase the quality of pipeline that we discussed earlier, how do you see your development in the space of machine learning and to actually improve this process, right? Like be more accurate in terms of the suggestion. And the follow-up question on this would be, what is the right threshold of data that actually helps you to determine the high quality of that conversion and pipeline,
Yeah.
right? So it's a little bit more technical in its nature question, but I think I'm really curious.
So so what we use usually is like an unsupervised clustering approach, and then we double check like if the clusters make sense. I don't know if that's like the question, but for that we actually don't need as much data. Obviously, it's more accurate if you have more data. But what we realized, I mean, I come from that field. When I started to work with companies, I was just shocked like what data we are getting. So we really had to come up with like innovative solutions to work with the data that we are getting. So one advantage of us is, given that we know how to enrich the data, we can work with very limited data. So just knowing like, okay, what's the closed won opportunities, like as little as that, because then we feed in like the information that we need from our end. With one customer, we just had closed ones. We did not even understand like the closed losses. And it worked. It gave like reasonable results. So obviously, the more we have, the better, and the more professional the organization is in terms of like a RevOps perspective, the better for us, because then we know, hey, there are people who understand data and who care about data, so that makes our job a little bit easier. But we have to find a way how to work also with limited data, because that's what the industry has as of now. Incomplete, not accurate, maybe sometimes even biased when you look at the close loss reasons that we are getting from the teams. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but we are definitely at the early stages there with our models, and hope to, with every customer, to learn and grow with them.
No, it does. And I think you're right about this, right? Like you can imagine the market and you say, hey, this is how it's going to be, but the reality might be very different. And you say, hey, we're dealing with what the customers have, and we're trying to do our best. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of learning here before you start looking at the aggregated level and say, hey, we're gonna automate this. We're gonna create the machine learning, and we'll just do the XYZ and feed all of them at the same time. Makes a lot of sense. So staying somewhere in the same space, what is your market perspective on the BI and generative AI? Everybody's talking about this. Your company changed extension that you going. That's a probably indication that you go in that direction. That's a part of the strategy. So how do you see this space changing the sales space and go to market, broadly speaking?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a space that's evolving a lot, and it's evolving quickly. And I think, at first, there was a bit of that fear within sales teams where AI is going to take my job. My personal perspective, at least in the near medium future, there's this quote they say that AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI will take your job if you don't. And I think within the sales space has been a really cool industry where you've seen amazing things happening. I mean, these capabilities where AI is just coming in as a strong enabler. I think that trend is going to continue. I really do think more and more companies, almost every sales team, is going to start utilizing AI in one aspect or another. And then I think, on the other side of the market comes the question, what does it look like if you're building an AI startup? Early days, you have the incumbents who come in, you have the existing large language models, OpenAI, Anthropic, where a lot of people are building on. And the question always comes to build versus buy. I was at a panel the other night, they're actually having this discussion. The trend I'm seeing, and I think what people are focusing on, is a lot will stay on that buy and build on top of the existing models. And I don't think it's going to get to a point where every company is going to need to have their own formation models. They're going to need to have in-house LLMs. It's just not feasible. It's too expensive. It'll take too long. I do think, similar to us now trying to build our own models and where that came from, your differentiating factor is going to be that secret sauce of what proprietary information do you have versus just being a wrapper over the existing generative AI solutions.
Yeah, I think what you said at the beginning, the AI is taking my job versus, the revision of that point of view with, hey, the guy who actually knows how to use it will take my job. That is still a question mark, but I'm more skeptical about AI is taking my job.
Yeah.
There are certain areas where probably my involvement will be diminished or reduced, but it's not replacing me.
Yeah.
And I think in sales, you have some unique position where you offer also human touch. So in my recent post, I wrote exactly about that, where I said that I received a call. It was a robotic synthetic voice call. And it was confusing. It was really confusing, and I'm pretty sure somebody will improve that. But what I realized is that I want to talk to the person. I want to talk to the person that actually has all the flaws, just doesn't know how to answer. I want to have a human because I'm having a conversation. With the AI where it's going to give me all the answers, I'm not sure I want to deal with it. I'm not sure I want to deal with a company that is doing the business that way. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe somebody in 10 years from now will tell me, you remember when you said that? Everybody does this. Okay, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. But I still favor someone's voice or lack of information where we're going to have a follow-up than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
balanced approach is important.
I completely agree with you on that. And I would also say, I think these days, when now sales again shifting to more quality approach, that human and relationship aspect is becoming so much more and more important again. You know, I see it in like the deals I have or people trying to sell to me. I want the people who mess up something on a demo or they crack a joke. After a deal, we can go out and grab a beer. And that aspect is really shining more and more, which, like you said, I don't think AI is ever going to be able to replace that. If it does, that's going to be a terrifying world.
Yeah. You're a human solving your own human problems with these tools, and you want to talk to a human to do that to some degree. And I think I really liked your reframe of that, Cyrus, of the person who knows how to use AI is going to take your job. I think it's going to be interesting for like entry level jobs. So you're no longer going to be coming in and doing like manual data entry and all the manual tasks of that a company has. You're actually going to be like thrown into doing real stuff quickly. How that kind of changes the industry will be interesting. I think good to have people who are strategic thinkers and thoughtful in what they're doing across the whole business. So I'm kind of excited to see how it goes.
Me too, to be honest. So maybe like as a little side note, I was teaching 2,500 students across the globe. And I noticed over the course of the years, we became more and more dependent, more and more taking less ownership. And, I was always wondering if that continues and positioning those people then in the job market, where will we end up? But I did not see back then, that AI will peak up so much. And I think like it's even necessary to have those tools to enable the people. And I'm a big believer of AI. And I do think that a lot of jobs will be automated, but, there will be new ones created. And then it's just the questions like, how large will the teams be? I think that that's something to consider. It will be definitely harder to get into the market. And given that you won't have like the training on the job, what will be the training to enable those graduates, for example? And I think that's like a bigger societal question that we need to ask ourselves.
Well, how does the technology get into the school system so that they come out ready to use them? And then how does AI actually open up 1 million more company opportunities, right?
Exactly.
Maybe there's less jobs in some of the companies, but hey, there's 50 new companies built on OpenAI or building their own AI models. So I think it just all shifts around.
And when you have a good matching between buyers and sellers, more niche products will arise, which is also beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that even in the go-to-market space right now of like all these niche products coming up. It makes me excited for partnership opportunities and whatnot. On that note, are there any other companies in the space right now that you guys are really excited about either working with or seeing kind of rising up and doing something completely different?
Oh, yes. I mean, you mentioned it on the go-to-market side. There are just so many cool tools. I mean, Cyrus mentioned it already with Clay. I'm a big fan of Warmly. So we talked about the website intent data. I think they're a great product as an alternative to 6sense, for example. I love their founding team. I love their whole growth story. And this is also what I usually try to recommend to our customers. I love Hyperbound. They're like a portfolio company from like the same investors that we are in. I think they're a great example how to enable graduates without training them on the job. They have like this AI sales training for SDRs. And I don't know, Cyrus, who's on your list?
Yeah, definitely a couple. I think one who's actually one of our partners, a company called Salesbricks. I think so many deals get lost in that last mile when you're trying to send contracts and invoices and things just fall through. They make that process really easy, which I really appreciate. I love that tools I've used, there's a company called SendSpark, which lets you send personalized videos to people, be it on LinkedIn, be it on emails. It's something I like. I'm a talker. I don't love to type, so I want to reach out to someone. I'll send them a quick message with like their background and their logo, which I think can be pretty cool as well. I think there's just a lot of really cool companies in the space. Like, I know they're a bigger one, but I think Gong is a super cool company. I think with their new conversational intelligence as they're growing, really does that point of AI enabling the sellers. It's a cool team of people, and it's just a great product.
Besides Gong, I have not heard of any of those companies. So I'm really excited to dig in and check them out and maybe have them on the podcast at some point. And this whole time I was thinking, like, how do they integrate or partner and use the data from a Gong call? So who knows? It might be.
We have a partnership with Gong. We actually can hook to their transcripts. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was thinking about how great that data would be. So I'm glad to hear that.
All right, so let's wrap it up. I think that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, sharing your thoughts, giving us a great demo, and talking about the trends in your category. We're going to be on the lookout for new developments on your product.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to this episode of the RepTech Podcast. Please subscribe on the listening platform of your choice and leave us a review to let us know how we're doing.